curtain. C-U-R-T-A-I-N. You know, a curtain in a theater where you can pull the curtain open and close the curtain. Curtain call. Okay. So this iris is the curtain, and then sometimes if there is a dark light, what happens to your pupil? It gets bigger because you want to be able to see. So your pupil is a hole in the curtain. So the definition of a pupil is you guys, right? You're all pupils in school. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is a hole in the iris. And if you want to see more, the iris pulls back and your pupil dilates. So the pupil is not a structure, it's just a space. Okay? Retina we already talked about. Now here's the interesting thing. Inside the retina, where all these receptors are, there's one area where all those receptors come together, because remember we have to send a sensory nerve back to the brain. Well, they all coalesce. Can everybody see that little white disc in back? That's where all of the receptors, sensory neurons, connect and go to the brain. And that's called the optic disc. So write down the optic disc. It doesn't have any receptors, it's only sensory nerves. I know we're running a little extra time, but hopefully this will get you started because we're not going to see each other for a whole week. Everybody shed some lacrimal secretions.
Can you say that about optic disc?
So there are receptors all over the retina, right? There are receptors all over the retina. And they all, you know how receptors have to go to a sensory nerve, and the sensory nerve has to go to the brain. So all of all those receptors, they're called cones and rods, come together and it turns into a sensory neuron, and they collect right there at the disc, so there's no receptors at the optic disc, and that's called your blind spot. And we'll run a procedure where we'll actually find each individual's blind spot. You'll be able to see, and it's kind of weird. Things connect. Don't do that to yourself. Okay, you'll put an eye out. All right. Anyway, so the optic disc, it's your blind spot. This is a lens. Can you see it? It's biconvex. Biconvex. And this lens will get wider or thicker and thinner depending on if I'm looking at you or if I'm looking at you. So further away and close up. So your lens allows you to focus on things further away. You know how you remember the old projectors would stand up, and if you move the projector too closely, it would be out of focus, and if you pull so you had to get it in the right spot. That's what this does. Now, as you get old, what happens to this lens? Is it as flexible? No, and that's why glasses, you see a lot of glasses on old people? Because I'm one of them. And that's why the lens is not flexible enough to see things farther away. When you really get old and you're looking at a medicine bottle, have you ever seen those older people, their books are over here, they're trying to get where's that one spot, because they don't have the flexibility. When you're young, most of you guys are young, you say, oh, I'll just read that, but when you're old, my arms aren't long enough, so you get the toes holding things to be able to see. Anyway, they're different chambers, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but different chambers holding different liquids. They're called the anterior chamber, posterior chamber, aqueous humor, and vitreous body. Both of those are liquid. Aqueous humor, write down watery liquid. Watery liquid, it's nothing funny. It's the watery liquid. And vitreous body is thick jelly. Write down thick jelly. So what will happen is the optic nerve will exit and will continue on. What's the area that you have to know in the practical where it crosses over to the other optic nerve? Optic chiasma or chiasma, either one allows for a crossover. So the optic disc leads to the optic nerve, which goes through that optic foramen in the, what bone is this?
Sphenoid.
Sphenoid, but you can actually see the ethmoid connected here. What is that thing that the brain attaches to next to the cribber? Almost. What is that? The brain attaches to it. It's next to it is the
Crista Galli.
This is the Crista Galli. There you go, right there. So your eyes, your nose, and your brain are all right here. This is actually considered the triangle of death. In the old days, before antibiotics, people had a facial infection or tooth infection would go right up to the brain. And it would be very bad. Okay, so that's a summary of the eye. Can you hang in there for a summary of the year just to get you guys started? This is the yes part.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Some people have vacation on the brain. Can you put that over there? All right, so real quick, this is just the fun stuff on the ear. Guess what this is? This is the ear. This is the
I can
external
see.
ear. And everybody pull on your auricles. These are your auricles. And why are auricles shaped this way? For earrings? No, it's because it's getting all the sound waves and channeling it, just like a funnel. When you say something, I can't hear you, what do? I go like this so I can channel all those things in. So the auricle, and then the opening into the cranium is called the external auditory canal. And then the eardrum, here's the eardrum. Okay. So what happens, sound waves are vibrations. And vibrations, when they're channeled and get smaller and smaller and smaller, you're potentiating them. And then what happens to this eardrum? That eardrum is going to have even more good vibrations, okay? All right, so what happens, and I'm going to try to do, no, I don't. I'm going to try to do this. All right, so vibrations start over here. And if you want to do this on the dance floor, but you're welcome.
We know.
And, okay, all right, never mind. Anyway, so those did you videotape that? Because that's really not good. Anyway, so those vibrations are transferred from this tympanic membrane to these bones, and there's 3 bones, okay? 3 bones are called ossicles. The first one is called the malleus. The next one is called the incus, and the stapes, I like to call them MIS, M-I-S, malleus. That's the hammer is the malleus, so next to malleus, right, hammer. It looks like a hammer. The incus looks like an anvil. Have you ever watched the old cartoons? They always drop the anvil on the Roadrunner. It's something that is kind of a flat thing. Anyway. And then the stapes is a stirrup. It actually looks like, I think, our stirrup. There's our stirrup. You see that stirrup on a horse? You know where you put your boot in or your foot in? So there's the stirrup. So what's happening, we're taking a lot of sound, concentrating it, more power, more power, more power, vibrating it through this tympanic membrane, going through the 3 bones. M is for, and I is for, and then stapes. Okay, don't worry about the windows. Let's talk about some of the big things. These are 3 semicircular canals. These 3 semicircular canals. So next to the semicircular canals, did anybody take math? What's special about those things? What's special about those things? Does anybody look familiar for math? Plotting something, graphing something. Does that look familiar? It stands for letters. What letters? There's 3 letters are used to demarcate.
XYZ.
XYZ. So these semicircular canals are on the XYZ planes and help us determine where we are in space. Have you ever gone on a merry-go-round and then gotten off and then you were still going? Anyway, so that's going to help us out with balance. So those are the semicircular canals. And now, doesn't that look like a snail?
Yes.
It looks like a snail. That's called the cochlea, and I think there's Latin for snail. So that's the cochlea, where it's round. So the cochlea, this is for balance, and the cochlea is for hearing. So write down semicircular canals are for balance, and the cochlea is for hearing. So I have both balance and hearing in here, right? So what combo nerve exits out there? Hello? Vestibular cochlear nerve. So write down nerve 8. That's this vestibular cochlear nerve. Is it sensory? Everybody say yes?
Yes.
I'm going to prime the pump here. Everybody say yes. And it's a combination of nerves exiting out the cochlea where we hear things and are balanced. So we're going to do balance and hearing things. I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff. So one last time. What's this big thing? Everybody wiggle. What kind of cartilage is this made up of? Your elastic cartilage, that stretches, elastic cartilage. And then what's the tube going in? What's this tube going in? External auditory canal. And then it's going to go up to what's this little thing right here? Eardrum. Oh, we like to say tympanic membrane to impress people. And then it's going to cause that vibrations to be transferred. What's the first bone? The second one? And then the last one? Stapes. And then it's going to go into the semicircular canals for balance, and then the
Here.
to here, and the nerve that's going to